coach or is it the quarterback?
Great question. Mr. Smith and I have disagreed about this question before on this show. And the more I've had time to watch, to let it sink in what I'm seeing even now with my two eyes, I feel more strongly than ever, Stephen A. Smith. I'm going 75% Brady, 25% Belichick. We all know it is a quarterback's game, and I believe that Brady made Belichick far more than vice versa, and many people think it would be vice versa. But not only has Brady been the quarterback of this dynastic run, he's been the leader of it. He is beloved and admired in that locker room as highly as any quarterback I have ever observed or tried to track in my time of covering pro football. Because remember, he is not above it all in that locker room. He hangs with his offensive line. He is highly liked to the point of being loved by everybody in that locker room. So many quarterbacks, just by the nature of being the franchise quarterback, are a little aloof, a little removed from the day-to-day flow in the locker room. Not this guy. So I give him high marks for that. I give Bill Belichick high marks as a defensive coordinator. That's what he does best. He is one of the great defensive strategists we've ever seen. But the defenses have always been very solid, but not great, not dominating. We've not seen Brady be able to benefit from the '85 Bears defense or your steel curtain that you loved when you were a kid, or Dallas's old doomsday defense back through the '70s. Not like that. This is a Belichick who can play chess and match moves with his cogs on defense with a Peyton Manning or a Kurt Warner in a Super Bowl in the St. Louis Rams, Mike Martz offense, but nothing dominating. Then let's look at the record of, as I've told you, of Bill Belichick in Cleveland. Remember, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years in Cleveland with 4 losing records, 1 breakthrough his 4th year, 11-5 with 1 playoff win, but he got fired ultimately, winds up in New England, goes 5-11 with Drew Bledsoe the first year, and I've told you before, an assistant on that staff has told me they feared for their jobs going into year 2, and they started 0-2, and then you know the rest of the story. Out of heaven fell the 6th-round draft choice, Tom Brady, into Belichick's lap. And not only do I think he saved his job, but he launched the dynasty. So now let's look at what Tom Brady has done. Well, meanwhile, Bill Belichick, all the cheating legacy of the Patriots was all on Belichick. And I think you would agree with me, was Spygate not all on Bill Belichick? I think it was. Yes. Okay? Yeah. And all the other accusations about the other Super Bowls all were pointed toward Belichick. But Tom Brady has taken the fall for Deflategate. I think unfairly, we could argue that. Let's not get off on that. But that's been the recent focus has been on Brady only on Deflategate. I defended him. He was exonerated in a court of law. Now, what has Brady been able to do? Is it possible he's done more with less than any quarterback in history? I give you Randy Moss. He had him for 3 years. He had the ultimate deep threat, and they put up some ultimate record-setting numbers. But in general, Tom Brady hasn't had a deep threat. He doesn't have one now. He doesn't even have a running game right now. They just put the ball in Brady's hands and say, you do it. 77% of the time against Kansas City, they just said, throw it. Just throw it. They got 21 rushing yards from their running backs. And speaking of those running backs, one is named Steven Jackson. He's a former first-round draft pick. He's now the only former first-round draft pick on the whole roster. So Tom Brady, the 6th-round draft pick, is doing it with a whole roster, offense and defense, with no first-round draft picks except the running back who I'm not even sure he's going to get to play at Denver. I don't even know if that, sometimes they surprise me. But, Stephen A., I can't make a stronger case than it's all Brady all the way through. There's no way he could have done this without Brady. So I might even be low giving Brady 75% of this credit.
Well, I can't get into numbers from the perspective of Skip that this is a players' league, as most professional sports leagues, are actually. And so when you think about the greatness of Brady, that's not to be denied. What I'm saying to you is that I think that, you're very disrespectful to to Belichick. Even if you were giving Brady 75%, you're giving it to him to make the declaration that without Brady, Belichick is nothing. And I'm saying to you, that's not true. when you think about everything that has transpired, think about the age that we're living in, think about the implementation of the new rules and how the game has changed and how so many teams have been forced to make certain adjustments. Think about the continuity that so many organizations lack. But this organization, as Teddy Bruschi and other former Patriots have come on the air and have declared for us on many, many occasions, it stops with Belichick. You don't get to go upstairs. You can shake Mr. Kraft's hand. You can sit there and have conversations with him about you, your family, or whatever. But when it comes to actual football matters, personnel decisions, and what takes place in practice and on the field, the buck starts and stops with Bill Belichick. You lose Deion Lewis. You ultimately lose LeGarrette Blount, okay? You lose Aaron Dobson. You lose Edelman. You lose Amendola, okay? You've got LaFell. You lose Gronkowski for a couple of games, all right? You've got this guy, Keyshawn Martin, I'm sorry, that gets inserted into the equation.
Yes.
That's right, so do I.
Yes.
But what I'm saying to you is that, you know, the potpourri of injuries on both sides of the ball, yet they still don't miss a beat. Of course, when you have what the coordinator called the ninja in Tom Brady, then of course that's going to elevate you. But you have to take into account the fact that when you look at Super Bowl champions of the multiple variety, you can't ignore the continuity between a quarterback and a coach. It's not just a quarterback. Drew Brees has Sean Payton. He's only won one title. You know, you've had great quarterbacks in history, but they didn't necessarily may not have had a great coach. It didn't happen. Peyton Manning still only has one Super Bowl title. Let's look at all of those things. But when you look at Terry Bradshaw and Chuck Noll, you got 4 titles. When you look at Montana and Walsh, you got 3 titles. You know, when you look at Eli Manning with Tom Coughlin, you got 2 titles. So there's a continuity issue that I believe that you're ignoring. I'm not saying that Belichick could do it without Brady, because if you got a quarterback that can't throw, there's nothing anybody can do. We understand that. But there's something to be said about Tom Brady having Bill Belichick, because the continuity, the cohesion, you know, the camaraderie, with everything else that comes with winning, Belichick makes sure all of those things are in place. Next man up theory truly applies to the New England Patriots. I think that's the part that you have to give credit to Bill Belichick about. Because let me tell you something. If you're not willing to do so, then what you're not willing to acknowledge is that a coach could mess things up for a great player. And we all know that to be the case. Magic Johnson made sure Paul Westphal was out of there. You see what I'm saying? That's not what he wanted. Or was it Westhead? Westhead, I'm sorry. Paul Westhead was out of there. You know, why? Because he needed Pat Riley. Michael Jordan. We all know that Doug Collins, our very own Doug Collins, is a great basketball mind. As far as I'm concerned, an accomplished coach, pretty damn good. I thought he could do it for Chicago. But Michael Jordan and those boys was like, yo, Phil Jackson's that dude. And Phil Jackson is an 11-time champion. You know, you look at the Lakers and all the problems that they had with Dale Harris and whoever it was before him, and the list goes on. Phil comes back, and all of a sudden, Shaq and Kobe three-peat. Okay, so there's something to be said about a coach's ability to mess it up. If we know that a coach can mess it up, how do you take credit away from them when they clearly haven't messed it up? Okay. That's where I'm coming in about Bill Belichick. So I understand your point, and nobody's here to refute Tom Brady's greatness. But I don't think Belichick's greatness can be denied, especially when no matter where you turn, every single NFL aficionado confesses and succumbs to the greatness of Bill Belichick. Spygate and all, Deflategate and all, they still sit back and they say, in the end, this guy finds a way. I got to give credit for that. I can't ignore that.
And I cannot ignore the most important position in all of sports, the quarterback position. And I give you your points. I get all that. But let's not exaggerate the partnership between these two, because I'm told, and have been told repeatedly, they're not that close. Maybe you can't be close because he still has to be the head coach and have final say. But they don't socialize in the offseason. They just do their things.
What I meant,
they're separate things. But I must tell you.
Yeah, I'm just talking about the role.
Yeah, okay. Bottom line for this, to me, this is what offended me the most, was as Deflategate hit the fan a year ago, Remember the impromptu press conference that Belichick called on the Saturday? Was it the in between the,
right.
you know, the in between weeks before the Super Bowl? And he basically said, "Don't look at me. You'll have to ask Tom." Well,
hanging him out
hey,
to dry.
Wow. That really got me. That was, if I had been in Tom Brady's shoes, I don't know how I would have handled that. And it's possible he didn't handle it very well, but all he cares about in the end is winning more rings, in spite of, with or without the coach, you know, whatever. He's just going to do what he does, and he did it again this year.
But let me tell you what you would have done. You would have felt betrayed.
I would have.
But you still... But you still would have came to work and performed.
I would have.
So what? But you would still came to work and performed. Not only that, Skip, you would appreciate if you were working with somebody that you knew was on an elite level and performed at an elite level on their job, because you would have said, okay, I need this guy to do what I do. Now, you just don't happen to be playing, you know, to be working with somebody that wouldn't do that to you. But the point is, even if I would, the fact is that for the betterment of what we do, you would still perform. And you would still utilize whatever myself, Molly, or anybody else brought to the table to make your product as successful as it can be. So, yeah, you give Tom Brady credit for it, but, I mean, what, you want a cookie? He's doing what winners are supposed to do. And so is Bill Belichick. And I think that that's the point to point out here. Bill Belichick has to be something special for all of the things around Tom Brady to be working. As Tom Brady. Now, Tom Brady might deserve more credit in the end because he's the quarterback, and it can't happen without him. But I don't believe it could happen without Belichick either.
Okay. Belichick, can I say one thing?
Sure.
Indeed made Tom Brady better. And, of course, he's coaching all phases of the game, injuries, in-game adjustments. But Brady without Belichick would have been more successful than Belichick without Brady. Together, they're better as a force. But at the end of the day, if we put it that way, you have to give advantage Brady, in my opinion. The question of the day is...
quarterback.
Who deserves, yes, exactly, the position, quarterback-driven league, more credit for the Patriots' success, Tom Brady or Bill Belichick? Cast your vote in our Twitter poll. Head there during the break, and we'll have those results later in the show. We want to hear from you guys. Weigh in. And the Bills make history and hire Catherine Smith as the first female full-time coach. The guys will react to that after the break.